The Hare Krishnas. We've all seen them dancing and singing on street corners across the globe. But in the late 1990s, a disturbing rumor spread throughout the Hare Krishna movement that its founder, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, or as most called him, Srila Prabhupada, was fatally poisoned back in 1977. The rumor alleged that a small group of Srila Prabhupada's most trusted disciples put poison in his milk over the period of several months. The scandal started in May of 1999 when a self-appointed team of poison conspiracy advocates called the Truth Committee first published their evidence in a book, Someone Has Poisoned Me, followed in 2017 by another book and video, Kill Guru, Become Guru. For 2 entire decades, no one has attempted a detailed, thorough cross-examination of the evidence presented by this Truth Committee. That is, until now. In their book, Someone Has Poisoned Me, the Truth Committee alleges that there were 4 audio whispers containing the word poison recorded at Srila Prabhupada's bedside just days before he departed. The book not only asserts that Srila Prabhupada allegedly said that someone had poisoned him, but boldly claims with 100% certainty that arsenic was the poison of choice. Yet 18 years later, in 2017, when this same Truth Committee released their video Kill Guru, Become Guru, they changed their story, now saying that Srila Prabhupada was not poisoned with arsenic, but with cadmium, a toxic heavy metal. They backed up this startling claim with another 100% certainty, based on forensic hair analysis results. This committee even listed the main suspects as Tamal Krishna Goswami and Bhakti Charu Swami.
We have tried to make this presentation as accurate, honest, and complete as possible without serving any motive or purpose other than the pursuit of the truth.
Question is, are they really telling the truth? For that answer, we first turn to William Roberts, also known as Maheshwar Das, a database engineer for over 29 years at the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme, California, and one of the lead investigators for this cross-examination.
Are they telling the truth? Well, we invite you to decide for yourself. First, let's hear what this Truth Committee states in their recent video, Kill Guru, Become Guru.
He also had warned in May of '76.
They may kill me also.
As a direct initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada, I felt it was my duty to learn what my spiritual master was referring to when he said, "They may kill me also." After some long, late-night research, I found a full audio tape that reveals where this quote came from and who he was referring to.
So they are thinking like that. No meat eating, then all slaughterhouses will close their enemy. If this movement goes on, then how our these nightclubs will go on, how our breweries will go on, how our slaughterhouses will go on, cigarette factories will go on, and now Jesus Christ was killed. So they may kill me also.
As we can clearly hear, Srila Prabhupada's words, "They may kill me also," refers directly to what powerful world business leaders would do if the Hare Krishna movement succeeded in closing the world's slaughterhouses, breweries, and cigarette factories. Not that his own disciples would kill him.
From a legal perspective, it is obvious that the Truth Committee's video clip is deceptive and misleading. They deliberately took Srila Prabhupada's own words out of context to frame a few of his disciples for a murder that never occurred.
Alarmed by this discovery of deception on the part of the Truth Committee, the team of cross-examiners then focused their attention on uncovering any other possible deceptive statements made by the committee. Their efforts soon paid off.
He also pleaded with his caretakers not to torture him and put him to death.
That is my only request, that at the last day, don't torture me and put to death.
It appears that the Truth Committee wants everyone to believe this video clip at face value. What they failed to disclose is what Srila Prabhupada said right before and right after he uttered, "Don't torture me and put to death."
Being afraid, don't move in the hospital.
I mean, we're not going to do that, Srila Prabhupada.
That is my only request, that at the last day, don't torture me and put to death. This is that in case it does not improve, let me die here.
Srila Prabhupada's quote, "Don't torture me," meant taking him to the hospital. If all medical attempts failed, then he wanted to die here in Vrindavan. This is another example of deliberate deception by the so-called Truth Committee.
My name is Peter Grimm, and I am a retired police officer. I worked as a detective for 2 different police departments in Los Angeles County and have investigated numerous criminal homicides. I have also worked closely with the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, and I'm fully aware of what it takes to thoroughly investigate and prosecute a murder allegation. Based on the lack of evidence presented to us from the Truth Committee, it is my opinion that it would be very unlikely of getting this file with any prosecutorial agency. These allegations are not fact-based and lack substance. Now, concerning this alleged poison case, I ask myself, what possible motive could this Truth Committee have for taking Bhaktivedanta Swami's words out of context like this?
But before the investigation team could uncover a motive, they had to painstakingly go through the evidence presented by this Truth Committee. The team first investigated why the committee had changed the alleged poison from arsenic to cadmium.
Between 2002 and 2005, Dr. Morris did these tests. The mercury was normal in all 3. The arsenic and antimony were slightly elevated, but in all 3. And then, surprise, the cadmium was sky high. The cadmium turned out to be the primary poison and the arsenic only secondary.
Just what is cadmium? Cadmium is a soft bluish-white toxic heavy metal, not only used to make nickel-cadmium batteries, but in the manufacturing of hard plastic containers, rubber tires, paints, and electroplating metals to resist corrosion.
OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration, didn't start regulating exposure to cadmium in the workplace until 1992. And the dangers of cadmium didn't make the international stage until the World Health Organization published its findings in 2003.
In light of the fact that there were only a few scattered reports on the dangers of cadmium before 1977, how can the poison conspiracy advocates now possibly expect us to believe that a few monks in India knew how toxic cadmium was when the EPA, OSHA, the World Health Organization, and India's Ministry of Health didn't even release their findings until after 1987? This is simply not possible.
To better understand the effects of large doses of cadmium on the human body, the cross-examination team turned to an expert witness, Dr. Fillet, one of the foremost forensic toxicologists in India, Chief of Poison Control Center, Professor Emerita, Institute of Medical Sciences, and Head of Forensic Medicine and Medical Toxicology.
Hello, Dr. Pillay. As a renowned toxicologist who has studied the documentation concerning Srila Prabhupada's alleged poison conspiracy, could you elucidate for us what would actually happen if a person were to be poisoned with cadmium?
In my opinion, cadmium, almost as any form except elemental, will cause some irritation of the GI tract. That is bound to happen because it has got corrosive properties. In fact, if you take it as acute poisoning, cadmium, it causes severe corrosion, almost like you see in acids or alkalis. Person has severe GI distress. So it is not at all a poison that somebody who wants to commit homicide will select, because it can cause GI upset, and GI upset is going to be something that anybody will suspect there's something wrong here. And even if you look at its toxic profile and look at some kind of events that have occurred associated with that, like in Japan in the early previous century, where contamination of some water body occurred because of cadmium, and the local population used that water for their paddy fields, and they started developing a lot of problems like bone pain especially, and it came to be known as a itai disease, or the ouch disease. That is, over a period of time, getting such severe bony pain, they were virtually not able to function. They couldn't even sometimes walk. Towards the later stages, fractures were so common. None of that we have seen in this particular case, isn't it? Cadmium attacks the bone, and that particular entity, itai disease, shows that if it is chronic poisoning, especially cadmium, bone would have been involved.
A Bay Area engineer working in Berkeley and accused of trying to poison a coworker's food and drink with a toxic metal made his first court appearance today. KTVU crime reporter Henry Lee was there and went through the court documents.
The 34-year-old Sue has been charged with attempted murder of a female colleague by using a toxic metal called cadmium. His attorney says nothing's been proven.
These are allegations, only allegations.
Chu and the alleged victim, Rong Yuan, were both engineers at Berkeley Engineering and Research, or BEAR, on Gilman Street in Berkeley. According to court documents, the co-worker noted a strange taste or smell from her water and food left unattended in her office. She said that happened many times during a span of a year. The victim said she had to go to the hospital for emergency care. Chu earned 3 degrees from UC Berkeley, including a PhD. The accused engineer was ordered by the judge not to contact any of the alleged victims. He's being held without bail.
David Chu had 3 degrees, and one was a PhD in chemical engineering. He worked at a lab where cadmium was readily available. His victim could taste and smell the cadmium each time she ingested it over the course of a year. When she went to the emergency room, the doctors immediately discovered the cadmium. But the Truth Committee expects us to believe that Srila Prabhupada was visited by a parade of doctors over 34 times, and not one of these medical experts noticed any sign of poisoning? Mr. Chu went to jail for attempted murder, but the Truth Committee has alleged murder in the first degree for over 20 years, and still no arrests? I mean, really.
Dr. Pillay, the poison advocates claim that in order to avoid raising suspicion, cadmium was administered in small doses into Srila Prabhupada's milk over a period of several months.
The cadmium doesn't fit here also, because it causes manifestation that should raise suspicion. It is not a poison that does not raise suspicions. It is like cyanide. Cyanide has got a lot of properties that make it ideal homicidal poison, but it is not preferred by an intelligent homicidal poisoner because it produces dramatic manifestations. The person starts frothing from the mouth, convulsing, goes blue. Everything in our house suspects there's something wrong here happening to this person. It will be investigated. So cadmium is one of those where if you give, I think the chances of raising suspicion that there is something amiss is much more.
After going over the Truth Committee's cadmium evidence as presented by Dr. Morris at the Murr Laboratory in Missouri, we discovered some major anomalies. First, the hair samples were too small. Dr. Morris anticipated receiving 1 milligram of hair. What did he have to work with? 1/8 of what he needed. Bottom line, The alleged samples from Srila Prabhupada's hair were too small to be tested by normal methods. Therefore, the Truth Committee was forced to use the unconventional method of neutron activation analysis, or NAA.
8 times smaller than the amount mentioned by Dr. Morris? That's why there's such a large uncertainty. It's all right there in Dr. Morris's own words.
Dr. Morris used the delayed NAA process because he was looking for arsenic in the tiny hair samples, not cadmium. How do we know this? By the Truth Committee's own statement. Quote, he, Dr. Morris, would increase the neutron activation by more radiation than normal, and measurements of the results would be taken over 5 days. End quote. 5 days. But according to the Murr Laboratory, where Dr. Morris worked, and the NIST Center for Neutron Research, he should have used the prompt NAA method. Why? Because cadmium has an extremely high neutron capture cross-section, and gamma ray activation results must be obtained within 10 minutes, far, far less than 5 days. Simply put, Dr. Morris used the wrong NAA method. Even the Truth Committee admits, quote, but he was concerned whether his test container would hold up or disintegrate under such heavy radiation, end quote. The containers may have survived, but the hairs disintegrated. According to McClellan Nuclear Research Center, Brookhaven National Laboratories, and Murr Labs, disintegration should not have happened.
Neutron activation analysis is a non-destructive method. McClellan Nuclear Research Center.
The question is, if the NAA process is non-destructive, then why was Prabhupada's hair sample destroyed in Dr. Morris's testing? The Truth Committee's information says that 3 of the 4 samples were rendered into dust and cannot be retested. And as far as the 4th sample, it remains unaccounted for.
Dr. Morris had never tested hair with the NAA process prior to obtaining the samples that were allegedly from Srila Prabhupada. The Truth Committee claims, quote, Dr. Morris is an expert, experienced, and recognized scientist in the field of hair tests. However, our investigation proves that the Murr Labs had not done any hair tests until 2 years after they tested Srila Prabhupada's hair. That's when Rebecca Bergfield requested hair tests on a 500-year-old Peruvian mummy. And who ran those tests? Dr. Robert Jeffrey Speakman, not Dr. Morris. And how much of the mummy's hair did Mrs. Bergfield supply? This much. And remember what Dr. Morris had to work with? Not even a single gram of hair. Dr. Morris warned Nico Cute. External contamination cannot be ruled out without a detailed history of the hair samples. The Truth Committee doesn't want anybody to realize that 2 of these hair samples passed through the hands of 7 different people over a period of 25 years while traveling from India to Australia and who knows where, and then finally to Dr. Morris in Missouri. This fact alone completely breaks the proper chain of custody. And without a detailed history of what happened immediately on day 1 after cutting Srila Prabhupada's hair, it is impossible for any rational person to rule out external contamination.
The investigation team is not saying that there was no cadmium in Srila Prabhupada's hair. But since the tests were not conducted properly, according to strict NAA protocol, Dr. Morris's results are questionable or suspect at best.
Now here's the question. If ingestion of cadmium is ruled out, just how did such a large amount of cadmium find its way onto Srila Prabhupada's hair?
Well, one very likely way the hair could have been contaminated is by the atmosphere. But the Truth Committee simply says that would be impossible.
The only way to acquire these kinds of levels of cadmium would be to directly ingest cadmium chemicals, or in other words, be poisoned in your food and drink.
Even the Truth Committee's own Dr. Morris warned them in the 2005 letter not to rule out atmospheric contamination. But did they listen to their own professional, Dr. Morris? No.
What's ironic about this is that the Truth Committee's spokesperson, Nico Cute himself, states in writing that he sanded some wood-containing lead-based paint, then sent in samples of his own hair that were 2 inches long to a hair analysis lab to determine if the lab was legitimate. As expected, the results came back with hair containing an abnormally high level of lead.
By the Truth Committee's own inadvertent admission, together with the statement of Dr. Morris, it is totally possible to contaminate hair with a heavy metal, whether it be lead or cadmium, without having to ingest the metal itself.
Another possibility? The hair clippers themselves, which are plated to resist corrosion in a process that uses, you guessed it, cadmium.
Later, we'll show how the hair clippers themselves were tested for cadmium plating. And the results were negative.
Well, our question is, where are the hair clipper test results that they promised? This committee gave us no written documentation, no test results or hard copy certification of any test, negative or positive.
The whole thing appears like somebody has already decided that A, it is poisoning, B, we should say it is cadmium. So now let's look at, what are the things that will fit into this picture. It looks like that, I'm sorry to say. But as a person with that kind of objective, mind here, I have no intention of taking sides. I feel that the whole thing is being constructed like that. It is like that classical, English phrase, give a dog a bad name and then hang it, That is, you already have decided that you want to prove this. Now let us gather evidence to prove that. That is why I am really disturbed about this. If somebody had said, these are the manifestations this person suffered from, indicating cadmium, therefore we've selected that, and then we found that, it's high level, yes, that is a logical progression. And here it appears to me, there does not seem to be that kind of logic involved.
Since the cross-examination team and forensic toxicologist Dr. Fillet have ruled out Srila Prabhupada being poisoned by ingesting cadmium, the question then becomes, how did Srila Prabhupada's material body expire?
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Karnapatau Premamrita Vanidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Kriram
Let's hear from Abhiram Das, Srila Prabhupada's nurse, who was by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami's side for those final 7 months in 1977.
No, it was not a factor enough to enter my diary, even though I was his nurse. And so it came as quite a surprise to me that, this was developed into such an issue. The whole time it was so well known. Every doctor confirmed from even before 1977 that Srila Prabhupada had severe diabetes. As his nurse, I was never bewildered by what his disease was. And Dr. McIrving in London confirmed it. He, in fact, gave a very clear analysis. He said that Srila Prabhupada has had his whole life, obviously, some small urinary tract. The addition of diabetes and swelling from diabetes, this is what Dr. McIrving analyzed, caused further constriction on the urinary tract, so that when Prabhupada passed water, there was a back pressure on his kidneys. He had to push to pass water. That back pressure over the years caused renal damage, kidney damage. The kidney damage meant an increase in uric acid in the body. Increased uric acid in the body means that the digestion becomes very poor, very lethargic, very nauseous sort of feeling in the body, which was exactly Prabhupada's symptoms. Swelling, very, very soft, silky soft skin, feet and hands, but very puffy. I mean, almost, distorted looking, very puffy. You could just squish them like a balloon. Very itchy back. These are all symptoms of diabetes, classic symptoms of diabetes. And Prabhupada's consistent refusal to do anything to take care of it. He wouldn't even avoid sweets. Very stubborn on these things. So it was very obvious what was happening. He was suffering from the complications of acute diabetes and the uric acid poisoning from the kidney damage. Then after that comes, when you're not eating, malnutrition, then the body starts consuming itself and there's a complete collapse, which is, just exact verbatim what happened to Srila Prabhupada.
Next, the cross-examination team then focused on the Truth Committee's evidence of alleged poison whisperers, which had started the entire Prabhupada Poison Conspiracy rumor in the first place.
There were 3 primary whispers. The poison's going down, giggle, giggle, the poison's going down. That's Tamal's voice and Bhavananda's giggle. Is there poison in the milk? This is just before, you can hear on the tape recording, Srila Prabhupada drinking milk. And poisoning for a long time. That's Jayapataka's voice. To which Srila Prabhupada weakly replies, to me. After studying the whispers, he determined all of them did contain the poison word.
Our cross-examination reveals the actual truth, that all the forensic audio engineers did not agree. Dr. J.P. French and Associates testified that it's not poison. He confirms in his letter that what sounds like 4 to 5 syllables is wholly unintelligible. In fact, not one of the audio forensic labs ever found the whisper is the poison in the milk. Not one. The Truth Committee just made that up. They didn't even have the decency to truthfully report what their own investigators had discovered.
All the forensic studies concur on the poison word in the 3 principal whispers.
This statement is not true either. Audio forensics investigator Tom Owens clearly says one whisper is unintelligible and the other sounds like it's not poisoning. All he was willing to confirm is the presence of the word poison in 2 of the whispers. Mr. Owens encouraged the Truth Committee to obtain the services of a forensic toxicologist and a homicide investigator.
A forensic toxicologist and homicide investigator should be consulted.
But did they do that? No. But we did.
Our examination also revealed that, according to Tom Owens of Owl Investigation, the Truth Committee subverted the audio forensics investigation in 2 important ways. First, they gave Mr. Owens a detailed list of what other audio experts claimed to have heard on the tapes. Second, they gave him a copy of their own book, Someone Has Poisoned Me.
I always tell our clients when they assign a case to us to not give us any more information than they absolutely have to until we're done with our testing process. Once the report is written and it's time to do the deposition, then it's time to learn more about the case, because bias has to stay out of the lab.
So what you'll hear is a sentence, a spoken sentence, that's been transformed by a computer to sound like gibberish. So, any idea what they said?
No.
Okay, you can hear it one more time. Okay, now we'll hear the real sentence.
The Constitution Center is at the next stop.
Does it make sense that time?
Yeah, wait, was that the same?
It was the exact same sentence that you heard the first time.
No way.
It's the exact same sentence. Your brain is always using prior information to make sense of new information coming in. Prior information to make sense of new information coming in.
For example, some devotees thought they had found a fourth whisper, put poison in different containers. But actually it turned out to be they're voicing different opinions.
Was this committee of truth so obsessed with finding poison whispers that any whisper which sounded even remotely similar to the word poison was hastily judged as evidence in order to build their poison conspiracy theory? But as this video clip shows, there's a danger in judging too soon.
Hey, you got to get down. Come on.
Now, as far as the main whisper number one, poison's going down, Tamal Krishna Goswami claims he said the swelling's going down. J.P. French reports that all he could hear was it's going down. Tom Owens testified that he heard, I swear, all of it's going down.
To complicate matters for the cross-examination team, a Mr. Jack Mitchell, the Truth Committee's star audio forensic witness, also claimed to have heard poison going down.
Mahabooty and I set up an extensive audio forensic analysis with Jack Mitchell at Computer Audio Engineering in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was an expert in the science of speech.
We elicited Jack Mitchell's credentials. He had an impressive resume, which included being a member of the American College of Forensic Examiners.
When we conducted a background check on Jack Mitchell, Mr. Logan Grace from the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners sent us the following response.
You should consider Jack Mitchell as a non-certified fraud examiner, since we are the only provider of the fraud examiner credentials.
And here's the catch. Jack Mitchell's ACFE certification is from the American College of Forensic Examiners International, not the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. Ironically, the American College of Forensic Examiners International was exposed by a Frontline television investigation to be a bogus operation.
The American College of Forensic Examiners International, ACFEI. They offer over a dozen credentials like Certified Forensic Consultant, Certified Medical Investigator, and Certified Forensic Physician. But the National Academy of Sciences report, which recommends mandatory certification of forensic experts, states that some certifying organizations appear to lack stringent requirements. It cites articles about ACFEI from 1999 and 2000, in which critics called it a certification mill.
I think the focus was primarily on revenue versus professionalism.
Money was more important than the quality of what was going on.
I think that's a way to sum it up, correct. So if you want a certificate that says you are certified in forensics, this is the place to go to.
The American College of Forensic Examiners was shut down for selling fraudulent ACFE certifications to people like Jack Mitchell.
Okay, let's look at the actual conversation recorded on November 10th, 1977. At just over a minute in, Srila Prabhupada clearly says, "Make me flat." The controversial whisper, "Poison's going down," occurs 52 seconds later. Tamal Krishna Goswami tells us he said, "The swelling's going down," which would make perfect sense after having just observed the limbs of His Divine Grace when repositioning him on his back. Over 6 minutes later, Bhakti Charuswami finally asks Srila Prabhupada if he wants to drink milk. And it isn't until well over 7.5 minutes after the alleged poisoning going down whisper that we hear Srila Prabhupada finally drinking milk. This proves that the alleged poison going down whisper was not spoken while Srila Prabhupada drank milk. No, whatever he said at that moment was spoken while he lay flat on his back. And everyone knows you can't drink anything while lying on your back, especially hot milk.
In their detailed investigation, the Truth Committee should have made the correlation between the time the alleged whisper, "The poison's going down," and when Srila Prabhupada was actually drinking milk. Why didn't they report the facts? They studied the same conversation that we did. The difference is that our team picked up on this immediately.
When Tamal Krishna Goswami was laying Srila Prabhupada flat, he noticed the swellings in Prabhupada's feet and hands were going down. Remember Srila Prabhupada's nurse, Abraham? His statement said hands were puffy like balloons.
Very, very soft, silky soft skin, feet and hands, but very puffy. I mean, almost, distorted looking, very puffy. You could just squish them like a balloon.
That the poison whispers come the day after Srila Prabhupada said someone has poisoned me. Is this coincidental or what?
The reason why there was some discussion and perhaps whispers after Srila Prabhupada mentioned poison was because his caretakers had now been alerted by their spiritual master to the possible danger of food tampering. Even the audio experts confirm this. No poison in the milk, not poisonous milk. Srila Prabhupada's caretakers were concerned. That's all.
When asked who could mastermind the poison conspiracy, Dr. Morris said, amateurs seemed out of the question. But the question is, if Tamal Krishna Goswami was allegedly the brains behind this plot, wouldn't he also be smart enough to make sure that he and his accomplices did not talk about it? Especially when they were speaking into a recorder in front of the devotees, all listening in close proximity?
Then, the cross-examination team discovered a dark, dirty secret kept hidden by the Truth Committee.
Jeffrey Giuliano, the original Ronald McDonald clown who later became a vegan, stated that in 1998 he was approached by Truth Committee spokesperson Nico Kite to help make a poison conspiracy audio CD. Mr. Giuliano states, quote, "I was asked point blank to falsify the taped evidence by editing it in such a way that it would seem more damaging to ISKCON's rank and file. A few words seamlessly shuffled about here and there, and suddenly one dangling scrap of audio becomes a very different animal," unquote.
After Mr. Giuliano made this revealing statement, the Truth Committee had some serious damage control to deal with. It appears that's why they dedicated 6 pages of Kill Guru, Become Guru, attempting to destroy Mr. Giuliano's credibility.
Despite all their efforts to use controversial whispers to convince the world that Srila Prabhupada was murdered, the Truth Committee is forced to admit that the whispers prove nothing. Yes, the whispers alone do not represent an airtight case for poisoning. After all, whispers will always be whispers. Next, the cross-examination team addressed another important allegation by the poison conspiracy advocates.
We know why Tamal Krishna Goswami did not want any doctor around for long. He was afraid they would stumble upon the poisoning. Mistrust in doctors was promoted by Tamal Krishna Goswami.
These quotes are blatant fabrications. It is well known that Srila Prabhupada's mistrust of doctors goes back to long before his illness in 1977.
But as soon as you go to a medical man, especially in your country, first of all you have to give blood, then other injection. Better to die without a doctor. That's the best way. Don't call any doctor. Simply chant Hare Krishna and die peacefully.
There was never a question, well, we'll stop in Delhi and we'll go to the hospital there, they can do physicals, they can do this, we can look, and maybe that was never going to happen. I mean, I've always said from the beginning, being with Prabhupada for a long time, that I said he had another mantra. He had the Hare Krishna mantra, and one of his other mantras, which he didn't say often, but he said it, and it was don't take me to a hospital.
For the Truth Committee to claim that Tamal Krishna Goswami created this mistrust in doctors and hospitals is a despicable lie.
I'll say one thing for this Truth Committee, they sure know how to stretch the imagination to unbelievable lengths. Literally.
During the investigation, the credibility of Truth Committee spokesperson Nico Cute was called into question. Here's what they found.
I was one of the attorneys that worked on all phases of the Robin George case. I was particularly in charge of the appeal, which required me to read the transcript of the entire trial.
After going through this transcript from the Robin George case, our cross-examination team discovered that Nico Cute lied under oath on the witness stand in Superior Court. The presiding Honorable Judge Jackman later commented, for the record, quote, "The conduct of the defendants towards the plaintiffs was outrageous. No one, least of all this court, likes to hear from witnesses who only coincidentally tell the truth," end quote. Therefore, how can anyone trust Nico Cute's poison conspiracy testimony when we have solid evidence proving he lied under penalty of perjury in Superior Court?
It was noticed that Srila Prabhupada had said, "Someone has poisoned me 3 times.
3 times? Well, that's odd, because even a prominent member of this very Truth Committee impeaches their own testimony in his book, Judge for Yourself.
He never said they have poisoned me. It is we, the Truth Committee, with facts and hindsight, who see it as a cabal at work.
Well, we did judge for ourselves, and none of this makes any sense.
The cross-examination team also learned that even the main author behind the Ritvik propaganda published a paper concluding that Srila Prabhupada never said he was being poisoned.
Srila Prabhupada never himself confirmed that he was being poisoned. Srila Prabhupada only stated that someone else had said that he was showing symptoms of someone who had been poisoned. Therefore, there is no evidence from the infallible Acharya that he was being deliberately poisoned.
What happened? You said before that it is said that you were poisoned. This kind of symptoms are seen when a man is poisoned himself. Not that I am poisoned.
Srila Prabhupada says in clear English, not that I am poisoned. After we researched all the actual facts surrounding this alleged poison conspiracy, here's the most logical scenario explaining what really happened. Srila Prabhupada was taking medicine from the Ayurvedic doctor, medicine that had arsenic in it, medicine that was supposed to combat his severe diabetes and kidney disease. After 12 days, those around him noticed that he was displaying symptoms as if he had been poisoned. That's what this discussion on November 9th was all about. But back in 1999, when the Truth Committee heard the alleged poison whispers on the tapes, instead of taking the time to understand these events properly, they just used them to tell everyone, Srila Prabhupada's been poisoned. Srila Prabhupada's been poisoned. They jumped to conclusions reminiscent of Chicken Little, who ran around screaming, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling."
Then Tamal asks the big question, to which Srila Prabhupada never answered.
Srila Prabhupada, Shastriji says that there must be some truth to it if you said that. So who is it that has poisoned?
Srila Prabhupada's silence implicates Tamal Krishna Goswami. Srila Prabhupada was either wary of his poisoners or was concerned the poisoners would cease their service if he named them.
Now, is this Truth Committee trying to prove that just because there was 13 seconds of silence from Srila Prabhupada, it automatically confirms that Bhaktivedanta Swami knew his poisoners but did not wish to state their names because they were in the same room?
The real truth is, Srila Prabhupada never answered Tamal Krishna Goswami because the Kaviraj, or doctor, broke the silence. And here's a crucial point that the Truth Committee never mentions. During those last few days, Srila Prabhupada was so weak that when the devotees asked him about going on a bullock cart to Govardhan Hill, he took 19 seconds to answer. When asked a second time, it took him 38 seconds to respond. And at one point, while discussing the pros and cons of going to Govardhan Hill, Srila Prabhupada didn't respond for over 90 seconds. That's a minute and a half, a far cry from 13 seconds.
Shortly after the Truth Committee released Kill Guru, Become Guru, they released another video which offered a large sum of cash.
The Truth Committee hereby offers a reward of $50,000 in cold hard cash for information, testimonies, or documents that leads to the first felony conviction in a court of law related to Srila Prabhupada's death, including conspiracy to murder.
In my opinion, if these conspiracy advocates boast that they have irrefutable evidence that Srila Prabhupada was poisoned, then what's the point of offering $50,000 to get information that will lead to a conviction? Why can't the evidence they already have get a conviction and stand on its own?
In 2003, an attorney representing Bhakti Charu Swami tried to serve Truth Committee member Nico Kaipe with a summons to appear in court for libel and slander. Nico Kaipe had the golden opportunity at that time to bring all of the Truth Committee's evidence to court and stand up for what he believed in. Instead, he fled the jurisdiction of the United States and is now reportedly hiding out in Fiji.
What was he afraid of? A lawsuit? But his committee had all the rock-solid evidence proving 100% that Srila Prabhupada was allegedly murdered, right? He even had a written testimony from Tom Owens, the audio forensic engineer, who asserted that one whisper sounded like poison going down. So why did he run?
Then the cross-examination team noticed a rather bizarre and puzzling statement made by the Truth Committee in Kill Guru, Become Guru.
Even those who were not directly involved in Srila Prabhupada's poisoning, they are all as responsible now for aiding and abetting, as accessory after the fact, participating in the cover-up.
The misleaders in ISKCON must be exposed. Must be exposed.
Look, wasn't a Truth Committee looking for just a few of Srila Prabhupada's poisoners? Why did they shift their focus to a whole group of quote-unquote misleaders in ISKCON? Why?
Well, one primary factor people need to consider here is that almost all of the members of this Truth Committee are disgruntled individuals who have left the original Hare Krishna movement founded in 1966.
Tamal Krishna Goswami died in March 2002. At that time, the Truth Committee refocused its attention on Bhakta Charu Swami, and for extra measure, they are now accusing the entire GBC of being complicit in the cover-up of Srila Prabhupada's alleged poisoning.
All GBC members, ISKCON sannyasis, temple presidents, heads of ministries, deputies, regional secretaries, and other ISKCON managers. You have until the start of 2018 to publicly declare where you stand, or you will be marked as complicit in Srila Prabhupada's poisoning.
The members of the Truth Committee had an agenda to destroy ISKCON leadership long before the alleged poison conspiracy was dreamed up. This rumor was the perfect battering ram to destroy the faith in management. That's why they took Srila Prabhupada's own words out of context, because they knew that the rank and file ISKCON devotees would revolt if they heard Srila Prabhupada say something like, "They may kill me also," or "Don't torture me and put to death."
That's why they ignored their own spiritual master's words when he said, "Not that I've been poisoned."
That's why they don't want people to know that the alleged poison going down whisper came over 7.5 minutes before Srila Prabhupada drank milk. That's why there was no report on the hair clippers.
That's why they covered up the fact that Nico Kite tried to solicit Mr. Giuliano's help in falsifying the poison whisper tapes, which Mr. Giuliano emphatically refused to do.
That's why they fabricated the story that Tamal Krishna Goswami didn't want any doctors around, when it was a well-known fact that it was Srila Prabhupada who emphatically pleaded, "Don't take me to a hospital."
That's why Nico Kite fled to Fiji when he was issued a summons to appear in court in North Carolina in 2003. He knew he would be exposed as a fraud.
That's why they didn't listen to Dr. Morris when he warned them not to rule out external contamination of the hair samples. The so-called Truth Committee has done all this and so much more because of their real agenda to destroy the current leadership of the original Hare Krishna movement and not to report the truth.
In conclusion, this cross-examination of the Prabhupada Poison Conspiracy has uncovered numerous flaws and inconsistencies, as well as exaggerations, speculations, misleading testimony, and many outright lies by a group calling themselves the Truth Committee. Now, bear in mind that many of their statements were not merely honest mistakes or the result of some unintentional oversights, nor were they attributed to simple human error. What the cross-examination team has exposed here today is nothing short of deception. Intentional, malicious deception. Pure and simple. Thanks for watching.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Deception, the 400-page book, is available at Amazon.com.
Hare Krishna, Krishna